John Stetler. Echo. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you. And you are?
Paul Keaton.
Paul, yeah, we've met before.
Yes, we have.
Here to talk about the Amateur Radio Club, right?
That's it.
Okay.
We got an event coming up
Okay.
in the weekend after next called Field Day,
Okay.
which is an opportunity for us to go out in the field and set up under simulated emergency conditions
Okay.
and practice being able to maintain communications. And this is one where the public's invited to come out and take a look and see what this hobby's all about and how we can provide public safety.
Right. And there's a couple of different factors to the ham radio, like you say, public safety. And then there's also a fun side of it too when you're not doing that, where you can contact somebody across the world, right?
Around the world, and there's multi-dimensions to it. There's even amateur television. If
Really?
you can believe that. Yeah, amateur television.
I think we might be there right now.
So there's a lot of dimensions to amateur radio.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that people can see and we can talk about if they'd like to come out and learn a little bit more about this hobby.
So let's talk about it in the case of an emergency. I'm sure, even not in an emergency, I don't have cell service. I'm trying to use my cell phone. I don't have service. Say something catastrophic was to happen, and all of the cell towers went down.
I don't like this team.
We don't worry about cell towers. And so we don't stop talking, and that's the bottom line. That the hobby says, when all else fails, amateur radio talks.
Okay.
And so that's one of the reasons that Pulse and Rescue, and so when they're out, and Paul can tell you, but when they're out in places where there's no cell service, they're relying on radio, and in many cases, the people that go on four-wheeling out in the wilderness are using amateur radio as their means of being safe. They're called to home.
We have the ability to operate on battery power, so we don't rely on electricity or any cell towers or anything like that. And so we have the ability to communicate in the event of an emergency where all the cell towers go down.
A silly kind of question here, but it seems like a professional operation that you can contact somebody all over the world, or you can fill in for a disaster and when other means of communication are down. So why do they call it amateur? Because the word amateur to me seems like it's like me. I'm an amateur. but you're saying that you can contact people over the world and you can fill in, you can be a part of a rescue.
Yeah.
Why is it called amateur?
Well, it's amateur specifically because we don't get paid for any of the service that we provide.
Gotcha.
We're prohibited from being paid. And so it's a hobby level, but amateur radio was at the forefront of experimentation in the early days of radio. So it really was professional quality stuff, and it continues to be professional quality stuff. But it takes it away from the commercial aspect.
Gotcha.
Because there's no money involved. You're doing it for the love of it, like any other good community service effort. You're only doing it for the love of it.
And plus, we can't use our radios for any commercial services, like for businesses or anything like that. So it's strictly amateur.
Okay. Paul, you've got a series of alphabetized letters and numbers.
Yes.
Is that your
My call sign.
call sign? Okay. And that's how somebody contacts you?
It's issued by the FCC. It's part of our license. Everybody who passes the exam gets their call sign issued by the FCC, and it's good for 10 years. And so that's how we contact each other.
Okay.
That's part of the professionalism. It's not like the old CB days where the license was free and you send in a form and everybody could do whatever they wanted, and they ended up essentially outrunning the FCC in the ability to monitor it, and they essentially had to give up on that, but they never gave the citizens band any more frequency space. Amateur radio continues to get frequency space because they understand that we go through a licensing procedure. There is a base amount of knowledge, and there are rules and regulations and big fines if we don't play by the game.
Sure. So the cost to get involved in amateur radio, it's not really a crazy price, right?
Starts out very easy, like any of our hobbies. the difference between the men and the boys is the price of their toys.
Well said.
Well, it starts out, if you want to get into the basic operation with your basic license, using the repeaters, the latest thing out is this little thing here, which compared to 20 years ago,
Right.
has about 10 times more features than this does, and it's running about $30.
Okay. And let's real quick give out the date of your event, your field day.
Starting this last weekend in June, June 27th, I think is a Friday, and we can. There's overnight camping. It will be up at Daffodil Hill, across from Daffodil Hill. Sheriff Martin Ryan is letting us use this property across from Daffodil Hill, and we'll start setting up on Friday. And there's overnight camping. You can bring your RV, you can bring tents, or just come up for the day.
Okay.
And we'll be operating all day Saturday and early Sunday morning.
Do we have a phone number we can give out real quick?
295-2272.
Give them a ring. Come check out the amateur radio field day across from Daffodil Hill. Gentlemen, thanks for coming in the studio. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cam.
We're going to run to an ad break. John, good to see you.
Good to
and
see you.
Tennille's going to speak with Laura, the librarian. Stay tuned.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.